Okay, so welcome to part 3 of what I am calling the Great Green Nothingness Law. I am Alexander Gordon-Johannes. Welcome, fare thee all you across the grand and mighty spectrum of time, indeed the multiverse. So there isn't actually much to say about what's going to happen in part 3, because there isn't much that's actually happened in part 3 that is out there at the moment. Because, as I explained at the start of part 2, basically the final solution wraps up the war era of it wraps up the war era of the Great Green Nothingness Law, and as it does so, it wraps up kind of what's basically been written so far, in the sense that with the end of the final solution, you essentially have a clean slate, in the sense that the Logicios are now basically gone as an empire, right? Like they're still around, but they are not the misogynistic jackboots they were. And, oh, I forgot to talk about the SLF. Fuck. I could fix it, but you know what? That video is going to take long enough to render as it is, and it's fucking 1 hour 30 minutes as it is. So I might as well talk about the SLF here, because the SLF actually are going to be a lot more important in in the third sort of era of the multiverse. Anyway, the SLF are formed by free selves, in the sense that they are the Self-Liberation Front. And I suppose, to put it in an incredibly inflammatory way, they are basically feminist ISIS, in the sense that the Logicios are kind of misogynist America, you know, that has invaded so many different universes, that has forced these unfair rules that are oppressing their people. And essentially, right, the SLF are a bunch of these people who feel, people who are extremists and feel like the only way they can essentially be free of this great tyrannical power is if they scare the beast into relenting, because it's worked before. Remember, a long section of part 2 was me explaining how the Farshnuk and Lucy are. The Farshnuk uses Lucy and coordinates things so that Lucy can basically go in as the one woman to coordinate the fight back and basically give enough of a bloody nose to the Logicios that they relent and make peace. So, in theory, it could work, right? If the Self-Liberation Front causes enough nuisance to the Logicios to bring them around the negotiating table, then maybe the Logicios will say, fine, we will stop treating Sylph like shit, just please stop blowing us up, because, you know, the multiverse will go boom. And then, basically, the United Civilizations of the multiverse and the Logicios, thanks to the Farshnuk's and Lucy's sacrifice, manage to end the Great Septagonoid War. And as a result, basically the cohesion of the Logisio Empire collapses. Because, yes, they are this great militaristic jackboot, but the reason they are this great militaristic jackboot is partly that they have a load of Farsh nukes, right? Because Farsh nukes are elder gods, and if you've got them, you can manipulate and use people, and you know they're powerful assets. With the events of the Final Solution, the Farsh nukes are gone, and also part of the reason people put up with the Logisios is that if you get rid of them, the multiverse dies and everything ceases to exist, right? And so it's like, hideous oppression is genuinely horrible, but at the same time, the entire end of everything ever is a heck of a lot worse, right? And, you know, the SLF are kind of, they're the extremists who are like, we don't care, this is unbearable, and if we can give enough of a bloody nose, then maybe we don't have to, you know, risk the end of everything ever. But everyone else generally is like, no, it's not worth it, it's not worth it. So a lot of the reason that that essentially the Logisio Empire remains strong for so long is that they have got this war that makes them necessary. Right? Now, in theory, right, this war also is a drain on them, right? Because this war is why they had to create the United Civilizations in the first place. Is why the SLF pose a threat in the first place. Because they cannot afford any losses. Because they have to throw everything at the meat grinder. And so in theory, once the war ends, the Logisios can devote their full strength to destroying all opposition. Except basically the entire time that this has been going on, right? The entire time the Logisios have been going on, they have had Sylph uprisings because, you know, there have been, you know, Sylphs like a certain amount of exploitation, right? Sylphs will gladly be eaten alive. Sylphs will under the right circumstances gladly be toys. They will, you know, under the right circumstances, there are Sylphs who will let you savagely attack and destroy them for fun, and then come back the next day ready for more fun, right? But they have their limits. There are lengths. There are points beyond which even Sylphs are like, this is too much, and that's basically how the Logisios run their empire, right? And effectively, the only reason that the Logisios have managed to stop this from happening from so long are that, you know, are that essentially the Farsh nukes have been there to kind of be a bit philanthropic, take enough care of the Sylphs that are being there so that the Sylphs don't necessarily want to rock the boat too much. Because at the moment, if they work hard and they do their jobs, then, you know, the kindly Farsh nuke will be there to give them a pat on the head and let them have some rest. But if they turn against them and they start causing havoc, then the Farsh nukes have to come in and they have to stop them. And they have to be nasty. And it's a horrible, horrible act of manipulation, but it is this way that the Sylphs have been kept peaceful, more or less. And at the same time, right, there are, you know, elements within the Logisio hierarchy that are very unhappy with the fact that, you know, I mean, essentially, when you become a Logicio, yes, you become a misogynistic douchebag in the sense that you gain this affinity for Sylphs. But frankly, you know, it's like this idea that, you know, yes, the South of America kept slaves, but because Southern people were around black people a lot more than those in the North, the people in the North were actually kind of in some ways a lot more racist than those in the South, because those in the North were around people of colour a heck of a lot less. Doesn't change the fact, you know, that people in the South were generally either slavers or complicit in allowing slavery to happen, but because they lived among people of colour, there wasn't the same level of, you know, animosity. And so similarly within, you know, the Logicio Empire, which is, you know, using Sylph slavery, right, there are a lot of people who actually, there are a lot of Logicios who actually have gotten quite friendly with Sylphs, and they're looking upon this situation and they're very unhappy with the fact that, I mean, apart from anything else, they are deliberately running a very inefficient system because they want to mistreat the Sylphs, because they figure it's fun to mistreat the Sylphs. And so, like, there are very practical and pragmatic reasons why a lot of Logicios are like, this is stupid, what the fuck are you doing? Like, even if they're on board with the idea of using Sylphs as slaves, they're like, this is an efficient system, this doesn't work. And equally, there's so many, you know, part of being a Logicio is that you have Sylphs as pets, you have Sylphs as girlfriends and as partners and what have you. And so there are an awful lot of Logicios that are like, no, I like Sylphs, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, they will gladly do a lot of this stuff so long as you're just not as fucking dickish about it. You know. I suppose it's like, you know, the house elf situation in Hogwarts, if the house elves had actually been kept as slaves. Like, hey guys, if you just fucking reel back a bit, right? Treat them with some fucking decency and respect, they'll gladly do more or less the same stuff anyway. What the fuck are you doing? So there's a lot of tension within the Logicios themselves, because the Logicios know what they're doing is wrong and they want to stop what they're doing, but at the same time they know what they're doing is important and they know that they can't risk civil war, because if there is one thing that is certain to result in, you know, the death of the multiverse by losing the war against the Septagonoids, it is a full-on all-out Logicio civil war. So the moment the Septagonoids go down, the Logicios turn on each other. The Sylphs have an uprising. The Farshnukes are no longer there to the Farshnukes are no longer there to keep the peace. And the United Civilizations have been growing in power whilst the Logicios have been waning, because the United Civilizations have had, and I'm bearing in mind there is like a lengthy discussion between Professor Logisti and a Farshnuk discussing this in the final solution. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself here, but actually I know I'm repeating this because I know I've explained this situation in an earlier blog, but fuck it, you guys have expressed interest in it, so I'm talking about it. You know, whilst the Logicios have been losing a lot of forces to the Great Septagonoid War, to Sylph uprisings, to SOF attacks, to a certain amount of civil disobedience from people who are like, alright, I'm not willing to go to war for this, but I'm gonna fight back against this and not observe. Whilst the Logicios have been getting weaker and weaker and weaker, the United Civilizations have only been growing in power, right? And yeah, the United Civilizations of the multiverse have lost their Lucies, right? But the Lucies were only ever a command thing, right? The strength of a Lucy is not actually that great compared to, say, a Correcthi or anything else. So, and bearing in mind by this point the Controvoxi have been welcomed into the United Civilizations of the Multiverse. So, you know, a Logicio can do a lot of very dangerous things, but going up against a Controvoxi, they're kind of screwed, right? And the difference between the Logicios and the United Civilizations of the Multiverse is that at this point, the United Civilizations of the Multiverse outnumber them, and also, right, basically, when the Farshnukes and the Lucies sacrificed themselves to end the Great Septaginoid War, what the United Civilizations of the Multiverse lost, basically, was coordination, right? They're still a military structure, they're still a military hierarchy, they're still capable of attacking, but they just lost the ability to coordinate, right? Whereas what the Logicios lost was they lost their best fighters. They lost their best way of attacking and combating people. They lost the Farshnukes. And so they're crippled. The United Civilizations of the Multiverse is nowhere near as crippled. The United Civilizations of the Multiverse outnumbers them, and the United Civilizations of the Multiverse basically immediately turns on them, and the Sylphs uprise. The SLF attacks en masse. The Logicios start a civil war. So, the Logicios are no more. And the Farshnukes are basically no more. Lucies are basically no more. There's still a United Civilizations of the Multiverse, but the United Civilizations of the Multiverse existed to protect against the Septaginoids and the Logicios, and neither exist anymore. So they dwindle and dwindle and dwindle as universes opt out and opt out and opt out and opt out. It's like we needed the European Union before we had the internet. Because once we had the internet, we don't need free movement of people because we've got free movement of ideas. Right? We needed free movement of people when countries were still isolated. When it was possible for bigotry to get so bad on its own. We are now at a point where we have free movement of ideas, where you can talk to people from Hong Kong and Shanghai and from Senegal and I'm running out of countries that aren't full of white people that I can think of. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a stupid fucker. You know, but we can talk to people from all these different countries and we can make friends with them and we can realize, hey, you're just family, it's cool, you're awesome, let's not go to war. So we don't need the European Union in quite the same way. And so we are seeing attempts to break out of it. And so, you know, with the United Civilizations of the Multiverse, they existed to fight two enemies. Those enemies are now gone. They start to fragment. I mean, it still exists in lore. in the sense that the Bam Kirsch is still going around trading with people, but it's more a sort of trade zone than it is anything else. And kind of that's where the final solution leaves off. That's where essentially you get the end of the multiverse to a certain extent, right? In the sense that there is still a multiversal thing, in the sense that there are still many different universes, there is still logicular mitosis, creating universes to account for every possible variation within that universe. But there is not a sense of multiversal organization like there was. You know, I mean, the Logicios are still there, kinda. And really, the Shrinkening is the story that is about what happens to the universe when really nothing is left there. It is about what happens to the multiverse when there really is no great power overseeing things. Because basically what you've got instead is like Gala Placidia keeping an eye on things on a local level to make sure basically nobody gets ideas above their station and decides to go out and conquer the multiverse, right? You know. Yeah, you know. Fascists are gonna get elected within the universe, but so long as they don't decide to go out and conquer the multiverse, it's alright, you know. And so it's like, Donald Trump, he can get elected because, you know what, he's too stupid, he's not actually going to try and conquer the multiverse. Gala Placidia will let that happen. She'll let that slide. Because she is focused on protecting the multiverse at a local level. And, like, Jafaxi Kulamansi's Architects of Chaos, they are now what's patrolling the multiverse. And because basically the Architects of Chaos are each individual heroes motivated for their own reasons, there isn't the risk that they're gonna become a fascistic empire and, you know, need to be overthrown at any point. You know, they just patrol and, you know, if there's any negative space wedgies that might pose a threat to the multiverse, they take care of it. And of course, you know, like, the Bam Kirsches are still there, you know, going from universe to universe to universe, you know, notionally continuing the United Civilizations of the multiverse because they want to continue essentially turning people into toys, and they don't really care whether the United Civilizations of the multiverse really exists or not. And I suppose to a certain extent, as universes leave the United Civilizations of the multiverse, so the Bam Kirsches are hurriedly making people join it and saying, yeah, you go join it. And it's sort of, it's almost like a Mexican wave of universes joining and leaving, joining and leaving, joining and leaving. But yeah, there isn't much I can talk about now with regards to the fiction, because there really is just the Shrinkening, and then there is the return, which is the return of the Farshnook, and essentially him deciding to take care of the fascists who might venture out into the multiverse. Because at this point, there isn't going to be a multiversal threat, right? They've taken care of it. You know, the Logicios are out there, they're biding their time, but they're observing things, so if there was a problem, they'd know there was an issue. The Architects of Chaos are patrolling the multiverse. You know, the Bam Kirsch is out there, you know, doing her thing. If something was wrong, she'd notice, and you know, yeah, alright, she doesn't have a great amount of force, but, you know, so long as she's going around conquering universes, she's got a certain amount of military force she can bring to bear against any issue, and of course she's got all these toys she can bring to bear against them as well. And of course by this point, you know, the Controvoxi are kind of a quasi part of the reformed Legicios, and you know, the artificial intelligence Omega is out there now. So there are a whole load of powers that are able to protect the multiverse if a multiversal threat comes up. The danger is now a threat from within universes spreading outwards. And so that's why the Farshnuk's turned his attention inwards. That's why Galaplastia is focusing inwards. Because the danger is from something inwards heading outwards. And the fact that there really isn't a power yet that would be able to deal with an external threat. And this is what my whole grand plan of different series will be exploring, is what happens next. But I'm going to let you read that in your own time. So instead, let's have a cut, and let's then tackle kind of, I suppose, having explained my writing and sort of the lore of my writing, let's tackle some questions about my writing and your thoughts of it. Okay. Okay. So that was the planning and the lore of the Great Green Nothingness, right? This is a couple of days later. I did record immediately afterwards, the end of the video, and then kind of had some time to think about it, needed some time to kind of recover and sort of think logically what to replace it, because basically the end of the video crashed and burned. I mean, let's face it, the reason that I recorded that I decided to split it up into 3 parts in the first place was because I've been feeling ill and I wanted to have something to put out there. And yeah, the ending was too shit even by my shitty standards. So let's talk about the sort of reception of my writing. The original take on this was a lot more kind of confrontational and a lot more nihilistic. Because basically, right, I was about to say I'm no fool, but I'm not a complete and utter fucking moron. I am aware that the reason people are now showing an interest in my fiction now is they smell a weakness. Well, tough titties, because basically when it comes to my fiction, there is no way a bunch of trolling Nazi haters will ever affect me as deeply as when I wrote a thing out of love and admiration that was kind of the culmination of the best 3, really 5, you know, or 6 years of my life kind of combined together. All this planning, all this forethought, all this lore and mythology combined together, that was this one perfect storm that felt so awesome to write and was so central in terms of lore and importance, and then seeing friends and people I respect not only hurt and offended by this, but effectively treating the fiction that I wrote as essentially like nuclear grade plutonium that you fire off when shit has gotten really fucking bad and you want to utterly devastate someone. And that someone was me, right? Seeing my fiction used against me by my friends as they essentially tried to turn everyone I know against me. There is nothing that a single there is nothing that any bunch of Nazi trolls, alt-right, whatever you want to call yourselves, there is nothing that people I genuinely hate and disgusted by and feel a very great deal of negativity towards can ever do to me that will ever be anywhere near on the same scale as having something that I wrote out of love and admiration and genuinely put so much effort into, used by people I love and care about as reason and utility to try to destroy me. I mean, I'm not going to harp on about, you know, the reasons or whatever. The basic gist is I made a fuck up, and it was made to seem like even more of a fuck up by the fact that people didn't bother to properly fucking read it. They just read it out of context. Right? It wasn't particularly great in context, but out of context, it's a fuck of a lot worse. And yeah, shocker, if you decide to cut in midway into a 50,000 word story, it's not gonna be so fantastic. I fucked up, but basically that experience has kind of hardened me. Because yeah, I am to use the meme that's going around, yeah, I am a fucking white male. I know that, and I more than that, I am a fucking white male who is capitalistic, writes out of lust, and writes a heck of a lot of submissive women, and basically at this point I don't give a shit. Right? People I love and care about need me to be alive. And I'd quite like to be alive, but life is shit at the moment. Life is really fucking shit. And writing is something that makes living easier. It makes living a heck of a lot easier. It gives me a sense of purpose. It makes me feel like I am, to be kind of pretentious, it makes me feel like I'm doing something for other people, like I'm not just doing shit to make myself feel good, but like I'm actually creating something that if people want to, they can enjoy. And obviously the experience of writing it and the subjects I cover are things that I'm interested in, and almost the nature of writing is such that it's not just about the writing, it's also about the pre-writing, the thinking about the writing, and I suppose to a certain extent as well, it's also about this idea of like brain crack, which I think that if I check my podcast app, uh, I can't find it, but basically that there is this idea of brain crack that I think Zay Frank came up with, but I heard from CGP Grey and Brady Haran discussing in Hello Internet, and this idea of brain crack is that kind of you almost at a certain point you stop thinking about how do I make this idea work and start thinking about how great this idea will be once it is written. And frankly, at this point, so what if I am, sort of chasing brain crack? I live a shitty life, right? I don't have the money to do anything. I live with the constant knowledge that really the money could just run out and living might not be possible anymore. I mean, I'm too disabled to claim job seekers allowance, and I'm not disabled enough to claim disability, and basically there is no way in hell I'm actually likely to get a job, because even people who aren't disabled, who don't have the issues that I have, are gonna have a fuck of a hard time trying to find a job at the moment. So I'm a dead man. I am a dead man, and I have to kind of live knowing that, and that's, at the same time, like, I'm not the only person in my life, as it were, There are a lot of people I care about who have their own issues, and I try to help them as best I can, and these issues impact on things and stuff, and so, yeah, basically, the value of a stranger's opinion on the internet with regards to my fiction is absolute zilch compared to the value writing and uploading that fiction has on keeping me going, keeping me alive, and therefore able to help out the people I care about and not causing them the distress if I can't keep going. I write because I want to write, and the thing is that unlike a blog or a vlog or whatever, trolling with regards to fiction doesn't work in the same way you may think it does. You may be eagerly salivating and, preparing your lube at the thought of masturbating to the act of trolling the fiction in the same way, but it doesn't work. It's fiction. Oh, you don't like it, you've got criticism with that, with this, with that, so what? None of it's real. It's bullshit. It's all utter complete bullshit. You're not paying for it. I mean, frankly, if there were advertisements, there's a tiny amount of ad revenue coming from it, so it doesn't matter because nobody fucking reads. I do it because I like to do it, and generally speaking, nobody is harmed by it. If reading my fiction upsets you, stop reading my fiction. And guess what? It's not my problem if you don't stop reading my fiction and you don't like my fiction. If you can't grasp the basic idea that you should not read something you don't like, that isn't my issue. I am not your keeper. I do not have to alter what I do and don't publish because you don't like it. If you don't like my fiction, fine. Go fucking elsewhere. And I know that there are people who are going, well, I will get you by taking your fiction and trying to sell it. Yeah, good fucking luck trying to sell fiction that isn't proofread and that is incredibly niche and that nobody's gonna fucking like. Oh, and that I'm giving away for free. Yeah, good fucking luck. I mean, also, something to bear in mind is that if by some magical miracle of chance you do manage to get magically successful and make millions from selling my fiction, I own the copyright, I'm suing your ass, I'm winning, so don't fucking bother. And that doesn't mean, well, you will attract my attention by I don't care. Like, if you want to do illegal activities to try and attract my attention, that is a very special kind of stupid. And I'm not gonna have sleepless nights worrying about, are people, exploiting my shittily written fiction? Are people making millions from my lore fiction? Oh no. And what's... Guys, my imagination is a dick. My imagination is a complete and utter douchebag, right? The reason that I write such depraved stuff, the reason that I write about submissive women is because I basically created these fantasies of submissive women to basically bribe my subconscious and my imagination into depicting something that I could deal with when I was going to sleep and my conscious mind was going in the background, right? In other words, as dark and depraved as the stuff I write about is, my subconscious is worse when I don't. So, and also, right, I'm not gonna read your fiction that you send me. If you go out there and you write, some fucked up fiction where, you drug me, date rape me, turn me into a girl, flay me alive, whatever, I don't care. Right? I know that people have written fiction about their fantasies of fucking my sister and shit like that. Well, here's the thing, guys. Your fucked up imagination is your business. I mean, my sister can look after herself. She knows how to deal with people a fuck of a lot better than I do, frankly. And I know for damn certain I don't give a shit what fucked up shit you're getting up to, right? If it's illegal, you're gonna get caught. And frankly quite right to. Me, I write fiction. In real life, I'm kind of someone who gets too intimidated to so much as, like, smile at a woman who is around my own age. I don't care what fucked up shit you write. I don't care what comments or criticisms you have. And I know that saying this to haters, to trolls, is going to be interpreted as a challenge. Guys, I'm gonna say this quite sincerely. It is not worth getting yourselves arrested writing fiction trying to shock me. Because I'm not going to read your fiction. I am not going to read your reviews. If you keep sending me emails, I'm just gonna block them. Or maybe I'm just gonna mute them, but have them stored in a separate archive so that when the police need evidence as to your fucked up shit, they'll have it. There are no fucks that I have to give about what you think of what I write, and no fucks that I have to give about what you write about me or about my fiction. If you want to write fanfic or hate fic or whatever, go ahead. And if you are stupid enough to try to make a best-selling novel out of stealing my copyright, then great. Do the hard work for me. I'll sue your ass. I know that people are gonna interpret this as a challenge. I know they are. And that's sad and pathetic. That here I am, just like, I have explained this stuff and how I write it because I feel like writing it, because it appeals to me, and I know that because I am someone who is weird on the internet that people disagree with, that they are going to go out of their way to try to provoke a reaction from me. I don't care. I know that means you're going to go like really, really hard to provoke a reaction from me because you're small and you're pathetic. Right? I know that means you're going to try because it's predictable fucking behavior. But, guys, there is nothing you can do to me that will ever amount to even a smidgen of how hurt I felt when my own friends turned against me. Right? And I know then that what you're going to do then is you're going to target and you're going to say, okay, what bullshit can we do? What shit can we write to make sure that that they go? You're going to try making forgeries. You're going to try doing this. You're going to try doing that. And get a life. Get a fucking life. And I'm saying that as the guy who is writing fiction about fucking Mary Sue characters who walk in and bloody get everything and do everything perfect and get everything right and get the hot chicks and right. I know my life. I know what I am, and I'm telling you, you're not even that. Right? Your obsession with me is not healthy. It's just not. Go outside. Eat a well-prepared meal. You know, say hello to a girl. Say hello to a boy. Like, I don't. Say, just live. Stop obsessing over someone on the internet because you disagree with them and you think they look funny and you think they sound funny, right? I'm not gonna notice you. I'm not gonna reply to your emails. I'm not gonna reply to your comments. I'm not gonna give a shit. I write because I want to write, and I publish it in case people want to read it. And if they don't want to read it, they don't have to read it. And if you want to waste time and effort doing all this stupid shit trying to catch my attention and make me react, then that's your own fucking neurotic condition that you need to go talk out with a fucking counsellor, because I am nowhere near qualified enough to help you solve your shit, and frankly, it's not my fucking problem. The fact that you are fucked up isn't my issue. I write because I want to. I don't care what people think, because I've already had people I love and respect turn around and effectively call me the devil for what I write. At this point, right, there are things I won't write, but those are things I won't write because I don't want to write them, because I don't feel comfortable writing them. There is nothing that I won't write because, well, somebody else won't want me writing it. My writing is what I write for me, is what I do for me. And I know that this is hard for people, for my trolls to understand, because 4chan has this odd culture of everybody feeling like they are independent, like nobody cares for them, like they have to be, like all they do is do stuff for themselves, and they don't care, nobody cares about them and all this stuff. But when it comes right down to it, they do stuff because they want to impress each other. And ultimately that's what this is about, isn't it? You're not calling yourselves esoteric jihadists because you give a shit about me. You're calling yourselves esoteric jihadists because you want to be able to identify yourselves to each other. When you do all of your stupid little jokes about me, you are calling out to each other saying, hey, knows me, yeah, we're all in this, aren't we? Yeah. Guys, if your social life depends on bullying someone on the internet, you don't have a social life. You've joined a cult, and it's not a good one, right? Cults are not healthy. Alright? They're not. They exploit a sense of community for other ideals. I mean, for God's sake, Millennial Woes talks about this. He explicitly talks about using and exploiting a sense of cult and of family to get people to believe racist ideas. Because after talking about all this bullshit about how he's going to create the perfect debating machine, he then basically goes on to say he doesn't give a shit about the debating truths of the matter. He just doesn't like brown people. He's just a racist fuckwit. Now, if you are a racist fuckwit, obviously there probably isn't much hope of reforming you, because if you haven't fucking grasped that, you know, the people who look different are actually also people, and it doesn't fucking matter that they look different, then, you know, if you can't grasp that people are people regardless of what fucking colour they are, you're gonna have a bit of difficulty dealing with me. But if you are someone who is just hanging around with these people because, yay, it's a cult and dank memes and all of that, right? Find something better to do. You know? Heck, watch anime! I mean, I don't watch it, but fuck it, you go ahead if you want to. I mean, you all seem to be into that kind of fucked up shit. I mean, that's not to say that anime doesn't have some, you know, decent stuff in it. I'm just saying it's not for me, and, you know, I know enough to know that there is some fucked up shit in anime, even if I'm not interested in even the not fucked up shit of anime. Go find things that you're interested in about pop culture or whatever, you know. There is a reason that I talk so fucking much about Doctor Who or the Discworld or Red Dwarf, right? Because it offers a topic around which you can make friends. Because if the conversation falters, you can refer back to quotes or trivia or discussions in the thing associated with what you know and this other person knows. It's like you suddenly have this different language to communicate with that you can fall back on. Now, I have grown beyond needing to use Doctor Who as a crutch. But if you are following my videos because you want to find the latest way to take the piss and compete with your peers about who can get a reaction from me, then guys, you're not even at the level of an autistic boy who is relying on Doctor Who to talk to people. You are at a level far, far below. So, you know, man up, get a life, and actually talk to people about your fucking interests, and have interests that don't involve trying to stalk someone on the internet, because guys, that isn't gonna help you get a fucking girlfriend. And if it does help you get a girlfriend, then guess what? You have succeeded in getting someone who stalks people. That isn't healthy. That's not exactly a win or a victory. Oh yay, I have succeeded in dating someone who also stalks someone on the internet. That's totally gonna be a healthy fucking relationship. Guys, just please, for yourselves, stop thinking that I am gonna care what stupid juvenile shit you pull. I am not some fucking game for you to play. I am not some piece of entertainment. I write stuff because I feel like it. If you disagree, if you have criticisms, if you want to write an essay in response, if you want to write a fanfic about it or about me, I don't care. I'm not reading it. I'm not watching it. I'm not listening to it. I am not paying the slightest fucking bit of attention to it. And I know you ain't gonna fucking stop, but that ain't my fucking problem, buddy. It's yours. Your obsession is your problem. It is not mine. Goodbye. Thank you for watching my main channel. Please remember to leave a like, favourite and comment. Shout out to the Dislike Club. Subscribe if you like what you saw, and share if you know someone who might be interested in the contents of this video. If you would like to help ensure more videos get made, there are a few options available to you. You can whitelist this channel in your adblock software to ensure what ad revenue you provide has a chance of making its way to me. If you sign up to make a regular monthly donation through my Patreon, then you will get to watch a selection of videos available exclusively to my Patreon supporters over at my Patreon page. One-off donations are payable through PayPal, or if that doesn't suit your sensibilities, you can gift items through Steam or Amazon via my public wish lists. Obviously, I don't expect anything, and the vast majority of my videos will remain free and ad-supported. All that remains is to say Trump should be impeached, the genocidal must be stopped, and institute universal basic income now.